On the layoff of federal workers, potentially, the president said yesterday that Democrats will be to blame if federal workers lose their jobs. Historically, though, in past shutdowns, workers have been furloughed, but they have not been laid off en masse. So wouldn't that be the president's call to lay people off?
As I've said repeatedly, Caitlin, this conversation about layoffs would not be happening right now if the Democrats did not vote to shut the government down. And as I also said last briefing as well, we are $37 trillion in debt, and the government is not receiving any cash. So someone has to look at the balance sheet and be good stewards of the American taxpayer dollar. And layoffs are an unfortunate consequence of that.
First term, for example.
Well, as I'm telling you now, this administration is focusing on checking the balance sheet and ensuring we're doing the right thing by the American taxpayer. And again, these conversations about layoffs would not be happening in the White House today if not for the Democrat shutdown. And they have a choice to change that. They have another opportunity tonight to do the right thing to reopen the government.
As promised, breaking moments ago, more than $200 billion coming into the coffers in tariffs, and now we're learning where some of that money will go. The White House has just announced that the Women and Children Food Program will not be cut off while the government is shut down.
Trump, you know, you go back to October of 2024, 44% of the American public viewed him favorably. Now, despite everything, look at this, 43%, which is well within the margin of error of that 44%. And here's the thing to keep in mind. This was good enough to get Trump reelected back in 2024. And Donald Trump is basically at the same point here right now, which I think would surprise a lot of folks, especially a lot of folks on the left who very much disagree with a lot of what Donald Trump has done.
What do you see is underneath that and driving that? Why is he basically the same?
Okay, you know, to quote the esteemed caller Dennis Green, the former head coach in the National Football League, Donald Trump is who the voters thought he was. What are we talking about here? Well, is Trump doing what he promised in the 2024 campaign? Yes, 52%. The majority of Americans say that Donald Trump is doing what he promised compared to 48% who said no. So what essentially is going on here is the voters expected all of this from Donald Trump. The majority did, and that is why his favorable rating, simply put, has not really moved all that much compared to where it was a year ago. Trump is basically doing what the American people thought that he was going to do. Indeed, if you look at the numbers, Trump has basically the steadiest favorable rating this much through a presidency of any president on record, and it's basically where he was a year ago, good enough to get him reelected.
This is why I made this statement I make on my channel, that I rather trust the internet more than I trust the TV. As you saw from the intro, Donald Trump's favorability rating has been steady throughout the pretty much entire year. Now they did it after everything, after deploying the National Guard, right? Fixing crime. Trump's favorability hasn't really shifted that much. And the mainstream media kept putting out this narrative that, oh my God, voters are appalled. They're shocked at what Donald Trump is doing. The Trump regret. And Americans expected exactly what they want. Like, this is what I was talking about with the mainstream media and the liberal leftists. And this is why I said modern leftism is ruining and destroying the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party don't realize that it can no longer gaslight Americans, no longer can cast character assassinations on Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is well known. This man's been in politics, man. This man has been in the public light for a long time, and your character assassinations can only go so far. Democrats' to-do list: give free healthcare to illegals, give free healthcare to illegals, give free healthcare to illegals. You know the deal. Also from the intro, you saw that Trump took some of the tariff money that he was getting, which is the only revenue stream that the government is producing right now, and he allocated some towards the Women in Health program, for food and health program. And it's baffling that Democrats are continually closing their eyes to the polls. The media refused to report this. 78% of Americans support deporting immigrants who are here illegally and have committed crimes. 56 Americans support deporting all immigrants who are here illegally. President Trump's effort to make America safe are very popular. A majority of Americans support nearly every one of Trump's policies. And I'll put it up here for you guys to freeze frame it if you need to. But this is who the media keeps pretending that Trump is doing something so shocking. Trump is doing something so appalling. And you listen to CNN, you would think this is unheard of. This is impossible, right? Trump's trying to put kids in zip ties. This is the narrative they're going with, because on the policy, they can debate nothing. Lowering prescription drug prices, Trump did that. Deporting immigrants who are here illegal, Trump did that. Undertaking a full-scale effort to find and eliminate fraud and waste in government expenditures, Trump is doing that. Every issue, Trump is doing something about it. And what Democrats are doing, shutting down the government for their policy positions that no one wants. Using money for illegals, no one wants that. And the Democrats, time and time again, keeps trying to obfuscate from this reality that they funded illegal healthcare, illegal immigrants' healthcare. Don't believe me? I got a montage for you. So we're going to play some clips of Hakeem Jeffries getting confronted on the government shutdown, which you should rightfully blame Democrats. And I also want to show you a poll that says that most Americans are blaming Democrats for the shutdown. And I want to just really use this to drill the point home that the American people have spoken. And the question I ask for you is, do you think Democrats will heed the warnings? This is why I say 2026 is very important in America, because no matter how much polling come out, no matter how much you say you on the policies, you agree with Trump's case of the policies, Democrats will never listen until you actually make them lose something they hold dearly, and that's power. Let's take a look.
Across public hospitals in New York City, a quarter of the patients are now migrants. Over the last year, nearly 30,000 visits by migrants and 300 new babies born to migrant moms. Staff here at Bellevue Hospital tell us they're eager to help, but the numbers are tough.
1 out of every 4 migrants that has come to Denver has come to Denver Health for health care, on average for about 2.5 visits. So we saw 20,000 visits last year that we attribute to the migrant population. That's a lot of care that we weren't planning on giving.
Not planning for those people to come in, and as he mentioned, they're coming in for maybe routine care. It's a trend across the country. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services says nationally in 2021, emergency services for someone who was undocumented patients, that totaled around $7 billion. The following year, $5.4 billion. And national statistics show that undocumented immigrants are less likely to have any type of insurance or even pay, up to 60%. The CEO of Denver Health says that she is unable to properly care for her properties, her buildings, as well as her patients.
We can't invest in the things that many other hospitals invest in. You know, during the cold spell, we just had a pipe burst and we had to take some beds out of operation. You know, had we been able to invest in that building, we might not have seen, that happen.
You know, Natasha, when we speak to some of these officials at a number of hospitals, they tell us that it is almost at a breaking point. They have to get more funding from federal officials, or they have to get more private donations. They simply cannot take care of the influx of people who are coming in for treatment.
Sorry, I just had to cut in here real quick. So you saw from the little segment here before I cut in, these people were going bankrupt, right? Illegal immigrants was stressing these liberal sanctuary cities hospitals, right? Because they were unplanned, right? They wasn't accounted for, right? And this is why Democrats wanted more funding for hospitals, right? To help cope with the consequences of being a sanctuary city. This is the Democratic Party for you, but we're not fighting for health care for illegals. But every angle, every political interest points to the fact that you are, right? This is why you're holding up the bill. At the time of me recording this video, the Senate Democrats failed again to vote for the CR, because this is how important it is for them to bail themselves out from their own bad decision-making, for their own interests. They want to get reimbursed for something that's in their political interest. At least if you're going to give healthcare to illegals, at least it should cost you something, right, Democrats? Because that's something you believe in. But no, you want the nation, the American taxpayer, to pay for something that benefits you. What a self-centered, narcissistic party you are. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and we'll get right back into Brandon Johnson, bootleg Obama, making excuses when confronted about them not voting for the CR. And when people ask them questions, what is your plan, Democrats? You realize Democrats have none. Let's take a look.
Any leverage do Democrats have? Can you all try to force procedural votes on the floor if they ever gavel back in? What's the next move?
Well, public sentiment is everything, and the voices of the American people, we continue to hold events here in Washington. We'll be holding events all across the country, and we know that millions of people over the next few days and next few weeks are going to receive notices from their insurance companies indicating that because of Republican inaction, their premiums, copays, and deductibles are about to skyrocket. This is not a manufactured issue. It's a Republican healthcare crisis that is unfolding in real time. And I don't believe the American people are going to stand for it. And they know that Democrats are standing on their side.
This is what you said at the time about that particular shutdown. Here it is.
We are willing to take what Senate Republicans have done in order to reopen the government so that we no longer are holding 800,000 federal workers hostage.
Well, that's exactly what you're doing right now. Hundreds of thousands of workers are being held hostage. What's changed from then to now?
Well, actually, Donald Trump is the president. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They could reopen the government if they chose to. The reality is...
Well, they would have to change the rules to be fair.
Well, that's correct.
Public sentiment will be on our side, he says. Bootleg Obama said that public sentiment will be on the Democrats' side. I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. And I think this video is going to be a lot about what American people have to say. I'm just reading the data. I'm just reading what polls the White House has been able to, showcase, to use to justify why they're not in the wrong on this. The Democrats are. And I like at the end of the clip, and it was a shorter clip, so you didn't get to hear the full context, but he said, if the Republicans wanted to, they could pass the CR. Well, they'll have to change the rules because the current rules in the Senate is you need 60 votes. Republicans only can do 53. So that means that leaves 7 votes that Democrats will have to do. So if you want to blame Republicans and say, it's the Republicans' choice for why we're in this situation in the first place, then shouldn't the people who are more at fault is the party that voted, who has the most voted no's on the CR, which is the Democratic Party. Republicans got like one person that voted no against the CR. The Democrats have their entire side that voted no on the CR. But it's Republicans holding the government hostage. Another case of Democrats cannot take accountability for their mess. Make it make sense. And I want to go through this poll because this poll kind of reflects personally what I've been saying over the past few weeks, some of my critiques about the Democratic Party. My number one critique was that I said the Democrats are just doing this to please their base because I told you about polls and data points where Democratic voters wanted the Democrats to oppose Trump more, to oppose the Republicans more, but they're doing it without a plan. So many Americans see it my way as well. That 55 says that Democrats are just doing this to please their base. 65 said Democrats should accept Republicans' clean, nonpartisan, continuing resolution. They're not going to do that because they need money for what? Commenter in the back. Free healthcare for illegals. Exactly. And you can't pretend like the media, the liberal media can't sit back and pretend that we're making this up out of thin air when we show you the examples of them reporting on this in 2023. Denver Hospital, New York, talking about how their healthcare system was stressed over the incoming migrants coming over the border and coming in there to get health care from them. Make it make sense. Medical care. Illegals were getting medical care in these liberal cities, and they happily took it, and they wanted the federal government, to reimburse them for their goodwill. And the minute Democrats can't benefit, right? They can't benefit both sides from the issue, right? Get tax money from the Americans and also fluff up their census numbers to get more House seats in the government. January 26th, Gavin Newsom says, we're not letting illegals in our healthcare system anymore because we can't get money or we can't get reimbursed by the government. But liberal media, liberals on the news networks will sit here and lie to you, America, about what happens. Like, make it make sense. 70% oppose the government shutdown. So who should the 70% blame? Because choosing to do nothing is still doing something. That's still a choice that the Democrats are making. The Republicans aren't unilaterally blameless in this. I agree with you there. Republicans are not blameless in this, but neither are the Democrats. And if you were to ask yourself, who's to blame more about this shutdown? If I had to ask 70% of Americans, or actually, if I were to ask America, who's more to blame about this? And you tell them the details, the specifics. Hey, they need 60 votes. 53 of those votes are Republican. That means Democrats only have to give 7 votes. And all the Democrats voted no, or most of the Democrats, they didn't get 7 Democrats to vote yes on this bill. Who's holding back the CR from passing? Who's holding the government hostage? I love 2019 Hakeem Jeffries' words there. You can't hold the government hostage for what you want that benefits you politically, Democrats. And this is why the healthcare for illegals kind of narrative that the Republicans are crafting is so effective, because there's some validity to it. There's some truth to it. There's economic benefit for Democrats to want healthcare for illegals because they disproportionately are affected by mass immigration because they're sanctuary cities. They benefit also politically for having a larger census bureau, because a larger census, because of the fact that they're sanctuary cities and they use these things as population hubs to bolster their representation in government. I laid out the case. All the incentives point to Democrats benefit from the shutdown more than Americans benefit from the shutdown. And it's becoming blatantly clear to many Americans that Democrats are only for themselves here, right? And I want to play this little panel debate here because I think it'll be a good way to wrap up this video in as they start talking about, Chicago creating ICE-free zones. And I don't know, every time I hear a liberal talk on these news shows, and remember, only these liberals in these news shows are surprised about the actions that Donald Trump takes, because Donald Trump has a flat approval rating, 43%. Don't get me started on the Democrat. I already hear it. A Democrat gonna come in here, oh, that's a low approval rating for a sitting president. Well, it's way higher than your party, Democrat. I'm just saying. But I digress. Let's get into the clip.
Here's the problem I have with what's going on. You see Pritzker, you see Johnson saying this is an unconstitutional invasion of their city, right, coming from Trump. But these are the same people that have absolutely no problem with an actual unconstitutional invasion of the country, where we saw the Biden administration let millions and millions of people across the border. They literally basically invited them across the border. Over 10 million illegal immigrants came in.
This guy, this I don't know his name. The bald black guy here. He's the worst offender. I cannot, I don't know, something about him, the way he talks. Because he going, what? Bro, look at Trump's numbers of how many illegals crossed the border during Trump's first term versus Biden's term. Biden had 4 times the amount of people cross the border in 2 years than Trump had his entire term. And you're saying, what? Like, you're surprised. Like, we didn't just live to 2021 to 2024. We didn't just experience that. We didn't just see these illegals stressing our healthcare system. Premiums will go down the faster we deport these people. Come on, supply and demand. Don't lie to me. If illegals or migrating a large amount of people in a concentrated area can raise housing prices, you don't think that's going to affect our premiums, our insurances? Democrats, you can't pretend that having illegals in the country is a no-risk solution, that there's no cost for having these people in our country. And that's something that Democrats can't spin. And this is why majority of Americans agree with Donald Trump that, hey, most illegals, 59% of Americans agree that they should be deported, regardless if they committed an extra crime or not. And look at this pitch that the Democrats are going to give you here, because it doesn't land. It doesn't land. Pretending, doing this, no, it don't land. It doesn't land at all. It doesn't resonate at all. I digress. Let's get into it.
Into this country. Now ICE is being forced to deport the people from this country, which President Trump promised he ran on and ultimately partially won on this commitment to the American people, on wanting to put the American people first. And so we've seen 2 million people that were here illegally that have left since Trump came into office, whether that be deportations or self-deportations, which they're also incentivizing because they recognize that that's one of the ways that we can.
Trump's effective. That's why his approval rating is steady. He's effective. People voted for him. The policies, majority of them agree with the American people. That means the American people want Trump to outline his agenda. They like the results. They may not like how he carries it out, but at the end of the day, it's hard to argue with the results. You may not like the way that someone shoots a three-pointer, but if he's making 57% of his threes, it's hard to argue with the results. That's Donald Trump. Donald Trump has a wonky form, and he's still making them shots. He's still getting those results. Democrats they have to provide something better. But all you're going to hear is endless criticism. And this is why I don't want Democrats to have any more power. And it seems like they're not going to learn until something undeniable happens. They keep losing elections. That's when they're going to learn. That's when they're going to course correct. But if you even give them a sliver of mercy, They'll if you even give them an inch of a victory, they'll run a whole mile with it.
Get some of these people
you said
out.
it's unconstitutional invasion for immigrants. What's
For
unconstitutional about
people
that?
like Pritzker and
No,
people like
you said
Johnson to protect
invasion. What is
right,
unconstitutional?
for people like Johnson and Pritzker to protect illegal immigrants
No, you said
through sanctuary
Biden let
cities,
them in,
which is
and you
against
said there was an
federal law.
unconstitutional
Yeah, if you
invasion.
let
What's
me finish, I'll get there.
unconstitutional?
Which is against federal law. We cannot have these cities protecting against federal law, and on top of it, stopping and prohibiting
didn't
federal
answer the
law
question.
enforcement
There was
from
nothing
doing their jobs,
unconstitutional
of
about
ICE
it.
from doing their
You don't
jobs,
have any problem,
and deporting people.
Madison,
on
you don't
top
have
of
any
that,
problem with the fact that
I'm not sure if
ICE,
screaming
with
is gonna
all
help
of
your
the
argument.
additional, well, I need a moment to
On
speak.
top, well, I'm not
with you
finished yet.
filibustering,
On
it's
top of
difficult for
that,
me to make a
there's
point.
been a 1,000%
I need
surge
to
on
understand
violent-
how it's okay
of
for
violent
American
attacks on
citizens,
ICE.
American citizens to be profiled, to be detained, even though they're not undocumented immigrants, for American children to be zip tied.
American
when
citizens are
ICE,
not being
that is
profiled.
exactly what's happening
Yes,
right
they
now.
are.
They're
What's
being
happening?
asked if they're.
That's all they got. Oh, Americans are being profiled. I mean, profiling has shown to reduce crime, right? And if you're innocent, you get left. So a minor inconvenience, and this is, oh my God, we're gonna. No, I already told you guys. Like, I'm at the point where my heart is hardened. Like, hey, it needs to be done. Hey, these outcomes, it needs to happen. And Trump's the only one willing to speak to these issues, right? And Democrats want to dismiss, oh my God, we don't like the way you're doing things. Well, we don't like the results that's being produced. So Donald Trump's the only one who seems to be willing to do something. And this is why his approval ratings are so good. And the left, they're struggling right now because it's hard to craft narratives when you're supporting a party that really is part of the problem that Americans complain about. Oh, our politicians do nothing for us, right? They only do things that enrich and benefit themselves. Democrats are still that way. Republicans, at least, they show an interest where, hey, our policies align, American people. You benefit and we benefit politically. We benefit politically if only Americans are in the census because we believe when you count the census and you only count Americans, that disproportionately benefits red states. I show you the political interest of Republicans wanting to pass this law, but I also show you how it's aligned with Americans' interests. America agree with that policy too. And it just so happens to be in Republicans' best interest to have the census built that way because it gives less power to the Democrats, right? And if the Democrats want power, they have to be able to align their policies with the American interest. And I'm saying that Donald Trump does a better job at doing this than any politician I have seen in my lifetime. Let me know in the comment section if you agree or disagree with that statement. Let's get back into it.
They are being asked
were
if
arrested.
they are undocumented. Do you walk around with your
38
papers
members of a gang were
proving you're an
arrested.
American
I
citizen?
understand that everybody on the show loves to talk about this
No, I
allegation
think
of
that you're
zip
making
ties,
excuses
which
for an
DHS says
administration that's
isn't
raining
true.
terror on
I'm not
ordinary
making
American
excuses
citizens
for anybody.
under the false pretense of doing something about undocumented immigration. It's ridiculous.
It's not really, I haven't seen ICE disputing the fact that when they raided that apartment building, that they detained everyone.
That's the point.
Hold on.
But
they have
DHS
not,
specifically
they have
has
not
disputed the
they have
big
not-
tie
but hold
about
on.
how they're zip tying children.
Sure.
And on top of
hold
that,
on
they
a
come out
second.
with more
Hold on a second,
information
Madison.
about
They
how
have
some of
not
those children
disputed, and
were
this is to
related to the
Anna's-
members of Trump.
I can't even listen to this thing, though. They're all talking over each other, and this is very unprofessional. But I mean, but this is what you have to go through. Like the narratives ain't hitting the same. The narratives aren't landing. They're not landing. I have we just went maybe 16 minutes. You saw the results with your own eyes. I show you the polls. I show you any day, all the clues, all the correlations. The narratives aren't working. If the narratives are working, Trump's approval rating should be lower than the Democratic parties, but it's not. The Democratic Party has the lowest approval rating. And Anna Kasparian, as much, a lot of people saying she's speaking common sense and all this stuff, she's still a leftist, right? She want to, oh my God, we're being racially profiled. No, I don't care anymore, bro. There's a reason black fatigue is a thing right now, right? Because people are like, yo, give me the results. Give me the outcomes. Who's going to give us the better outcome? And nowhere in a sane, nonpartisan way are you going to say a Democrat. If you're forced to pick, right, it's a Republican. This is why Republicans are more trusted on the major issues. And no matter of, oh my God, they're ziplocking children. Was it okay if you want to play that game, was it okay for Biden to let all these illegals into the country where they allow 400,000 sex traffickers, sex trafficked children going missing due to the fact that they created an incentive structure where they just had open borders and letting people through to our country that give opportunity for 400,000 children to go missing, for sex traffickers to bring people into this country illegally without documents? Was that a safe thing? Should we act outraged about that since you care so much about children being ziplogged? What's worse? You detaining a child for a little bit until the coast is clear and then you let them go? Or creating an opportunity for criminals to profit off of sexual abuse of children and women and children? What sounds worse? What sounds like it affects children more? And this is why I'm done with these little games that the Democrats and a lot of these leftist liberals like fake cry or show fake sympathy for. Get out of here. Get out of my face. We only look at actions right now. And it seems like based on the actions, Trump is doing more for the American people. Trump's interest is more aligned with the American people than Democrats are. Democrats are only looking out for themselves. And the health care for illegals at the expense of 800,000 federal workers proves it. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. I'd like to hear what you guys are thinking. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, please share this video if it's so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.